What's going on, guys? I'm Nick the Tutor, and today I have an absolute banger video for you guys. What we're going to be going over are the changes to the ACT. Yes, the ACT is changing in a huge way in the upcoming school year. This is going to affect a lot of students who take that test. As you probably know, the SAT also changed. I'm going to discuss the new changes to these exams and how they affect you. So let's get right into it. So it's no surprise to anyone in the testing industry that the ACT has chosen to change their exam. The SAT changes were widely well received by students across the country. Comment down below, let me know, what do you think of the digital SAT changes? Most people feel the test is shorter. In a lot of senses, it's a little bit easier, especially if you get those easy modules. Doesn't mean you're gonna do better, but it feels better. It feels less painful. So the ACT had to respond, and they did by announcing their own changes. So let's go into what those changes are. Change number one is the ACT does already have a digital option, and that option is going to increase in availability as time goes on. So big change number one is you're going to be able to choose to take the ACT either on paper or digitally, which I love that option. I think one of the big criticisms of the digital SAT that you have no choice. You must do the test online. With the ACT, you're going to have a choice, which is amazing. If you like taking digital tests, take the digital test. If you like taking paper tests, take the paper test. But this is going to be a big change, and this may cause a response by the SAT. Who knows? It already exists, not widely available yet. It will become more widely available and will be available for all testing dates in 2025. Another massive change to the ACT is that the science section is now going to be optional. I'm conflicted about this one. I understand why the science section should be optional. It's not a hugely valuable section in terms of a skill. You have math, obviously. High school math is important for students in college. You have reading, you have grammar. The science part was basically a second reading with some graphs and charts and stuff. I think that was the least valuable part of the test because it didn't test a specific skill that students necessarily need. So therefore, they're making it optional. That's changing the scoring of the test. So now the test, your composite score is only going to be your English score, your math score, and your reading score. With the science part being optional, I think there's going to be some fallout, which is basically colleges are probably not going to care about it anymore since a lot of students won't be sending it in. I don't know what value there's there on any standardized test. Anything that they've made a choice has pretty quickly died in terms of it being important. So I think this is basically the death of the science section. So for all of you that liked the science section, that excelled on it, I would definitely try to take the ACT before this change goes into place. But at the same time, I think there is logic to this change. It's the least valuable section in terms of skill. So if you do want to show that science proficiency, you still can, but it will not affect your composite score. What colleges care about is the composite score. So I think basically the science section is dead. Sadly, I did like it. I think students could improve upon it. I think they could do well on it. But at the same time, I do get it. So take that into consideration when you're picking the SAT versus the ACT. Massive change number three to the digital ACT and the new ACT is that the test is going to be significantly shorter. If you remove that science section, obviously that's going to shorten the test, but additionally they're shortening some of the other parts of the test, removing some questions, and they're getting the test down to that 2-hour magic number. So we went from 3 hours on both SAT and ACT, and now we're looking at 2 hours for the SAT and ACT. The way they were able to do that, remove the science part, take out a few questions from the other parts, and give you a little bit more time per question. That's another huge change, that the ACT is going to be giving students a little bit more time. I still think it's going to be a time-restricted exam. That's the nature of the test. That's the style of the ACT. So I don't think that's necessarily going to change. Maybe they make some of the questions a little bit more difficult, so even with more time, it's a little bit harder to complete. But at the end of the day, the time of the test is shortening, and that makes the experience for you students out there much less painful. So I think students are going to love that change. They love that change on the digital SAT. You're going to love it on the new ACT. Right now, students picking the ACT have a very long test. They have a lot of questions to do in a short amount of time. So I think this is a positive change. A lot of students have just gone away from the ACT because it's longer, and now that won't be the case. So definitely a good change for the ACT. Another important change to the ACT is going to be in the math section. So in the math section on the current ACT, you have 5 answer choices. That's kind of annoying. Typically, students are used to having 4 answer choices on a multiple choice test. With 5 answer choices, it makes it a little bit harder and a little bit more time consuming to, say, use strategies like plugging in or something like that. People don't like that. It's also weird, right? The rest of the test has 4 answer choices, but then on the math, I just have 5 answer choices. Just kind of a quirk of the exam. They're removing that quirk, so going forward, you will no longer have 5 answer choices on math, but you'll have 4, which feels a little bit better. It feels more consistent, and I think students will like that change. That's another big one. So when are these changes taking place? Well, the online test will be changing to the new format as of April 2025. That is a big change for any mid-year test takers. That's, during, say, junior year in April, you might be taking the ACT. If you're taking it online, it's going to be the new version of the test. But since a majority of students are not taking it online right now, that's not a massive change. The massive change, number 1, comes into play in September of 2025. So that's the next school year. That is when the updated composite score will come into play for all students taking the national, paper, and international tests. So this is where the paper test will actually change to the new format. In spring of 2026, so that's quite a ways away, that is when the state and district testing will change. So the school day ACTs, it will change in spring of 2026. I don't know exactly how they're going to pull this off with 2 different versions of the test from September of 2025 to spring of 2026, but we'll see how that goes. Lastly, these changes are a huge positive for the ACT. I think the ACT definitely lost ground to the SAT in popularity due to the success of the digital SAT, I guess you could say. So now with the ACT changing, they're responding. Let's see what the SAT does in response to the ACT. Maybe they add a paper option. Who knows? I doubt it. It really seems that they're trying to not do that. That's a big difference. I think that's going to be a big differentiator between the 2 tests, is that the ACT will continue to be on paper. So I'm going to drop another video for you guys, another banger that's going to go over which test should I choose, SAT or ACT. So look out for that video. But once again, thank you guys for watching this content. It really helps me out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.